about a person's attitude and knowledge in regard to his or her ideas before I say
I can't give you a psychiatric report on everybody who would disagree with you.
Wait a moment.
But can't we deal with the issues right at the surface?
And he talked about a psychiatric report on everyone that you disagree with, and that happens a lot here on Spreaker. Hold on. Okay. And that happens a lot on Spreaker. I wish I could turn these notifications off. Let's see if I can get that off my screen. Okay, I did. So I look at Ayn Rand and I hear Mr. Midnight Movies. How would you say that? Not his mother, but like mentor. Yeah, even a little bit of JP's mentor. Maybe. You know, I like altruism. I do a lot, or I try to do what I can, however little that may be, and I hope it's effective. I really do. But I think we need to take a look at that show that they did the other night. I think it was like right here. Let's see if this is where we left off.
Why not call it IQ test?
The stuttering.
What difference does it make?
I know they used the Whisk, which is a very popular
The Wyatt test. Wyatt test.
I think it's just another...
heroic and noble, and the degree to which she deeply cares about successful resolution to social challenge. Heroic and noble, and the degree to which she deeply cares about successful resolution
I think
to
they're talking
social...
about Ayn Rand there.
Here's a link to what I was listening to, which kind of inspired me.
Yeah, it kind of explains your
Look
discussion
at that
with
face.
Mr. Midnight.
Is that some face you'd want to make love to, by the way? I don't know if you see the picture of the woman in there. She does look Jewish, by the way.
Looks pretty hot.
Yeah.
Hi, buddies of Animal and Free Domain Radio. Hope you're doing well. This is a long, but I think incredibly powerful and essential
Yeah, it's 2 hours long.
conversation. That
Well,
I
we
had
can
with
listen to
Dr.
bits
Linda
and pieces
Gottfriedson.
of it.
She's a professor of educational psychology at the University of Delaware and the co-director of the Delaware Johns Hopkins Project for the Study of Intelligence and Society. Her work has been highly influential in shaping U.S. public and private policies regarding affirmative action, hiring quotas, and race norming on aptitude tests. She is on the boards of the International Society for the Study of Individual Differences, the International Society for Intelligence Research, and the editorial boards of the scientific journals Intelligence, Learning, and Individual Differences and Society. On a personal note, I consider her to be brave, heroic, and noble, and the degree to which she deeply cares about successful resolution to social challenges in the realm of intelligence is deeply moving and inspirational for me. And she talks about the need to understand what intelligence is and how intelligence shapes society and the degree to which it differs across various populations within society. And it's a very powerful and important conversation for you to listen to. Once you really start to understand intelligence and its bell curve distribution across the populations, not only is it hard to look at society the same way again, you know, the old saying that says, a mind once stretched by a new idea never regains its original shape. Well, prepare yourself for some mind-bending information and for a way of looking at society that is not only more accurate, but in fundamental ways, much more compassionate. So without any further ado, here's my conversation with Dr. Linda Gottfriedson. So thanks so much, Dr. Gottfriedson, for joining us today. And people are obviously curious as to why I'm focusing so much on intelligence. And I think it's partly because it seems to me there's this parallel universe, or two universes, when it comes to examining the somewhat or seemingly intractable social problems that almost all societies, particularly Western multicultural societies, are facing. And my sort of history was, I read the bell curve when I was in grad school in the 90s, and, you know, it kind of was like, wow, what a fascinating thesis. And then because it's never or rarely referred to in the mainstream media, it just kind of blew like tumbleweeds out of my brain. And then when I started researching why there was an economic crash in 2007, 2008, I was led back to the government's desire to get more minorities into housing and some of the results, negative results that came out of that. And that kind of drew me back into the fold as far as looking at society through the lens of intelligence. And I know from the experts that I've talked to and the research that I've done that which is uncontroversial within the learned disciplines, within the academicians, is something that is deeply and shockingly horrifying to the general public. And I really try to, build these canals between academia and the general public, because otherwise we're trying to guide society without anybody who knows how to navigate. And that, I think, is a real shame. So that was sort of my background. And I think now that I've really immersed myself in the IQ stuff and the G stuff and the ethnic differences stuff, I'm trying not to become the one theory explains everything kind of guy, but I find it almost impossible to look at social problems without first asking myself, what is the intelligence ratios? What are the intelligence differences that may be occurring in these disparate groups? It's not the final answer, of course. It's not the only place you want to go, but I'm finding it a pretty useful start. So that's sort of my background, and I know for a lot of people, I remember taking Psych 101 way back in the day, and we went through IQ stuff, but a lot of people have received their information about intelligence and IQ from the popular media, which is kind of like getting your cosmology from the 12th century Catholic Church, which doesn't really help. So I wonder if you could just talk a little bit about IQ as a whole, intelligence as a whole, and what people's misconceptions are about it.
Okay, it's not just the media that miseducate people. It's also many different college disciplines. Sociology, anthropology, English, just about any of the disciplines. Education, which is where I'm lodged. So it's widespread, perhaps especially in education, because schools are supposed to be the great equalizers, right? And the other thing I'd say, it's important not just between races, but within races too. There are huge differences within races. And the differences between races are just a special case of that, where the middle of the pack falls is just different along the same very long continuum.
And
JP,
I did a
JP,
sort of a segment on a show recently,
JP,
which was sort of tongue-in-cheek, where...
JP,
Yes.
I bet this chick can give a great fucking blowjob.
This woman can give some head.
Yeah, I bet. And that's, But here's the deal.
Hello, we have some.
It's probably horrible to say, by the way.
It is.
Dilly poo.
By the way.
Dilly poo.
Yeah. But why, and listening to this in academia that we pay our tax dollars for, why is it that this kind of thing is basically not a lot? I mean, this is something that, like, in the mainstream media that's pretty leftist, particularly on issues like this. Anytime you talk about IQ,
or also include the rumblings recently that they want to make, I don't know, when I say they, I'm talking about very specific politicians who are discussing platforms to make all college free to everyone.
Yeah. And what kind of criteria are we going to have for people to get in who want college free for everyone? Like, that's, right now we're talking about, in California, raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour.
Correct.
And there's a person who is a recent worker who works with me, and she worked at, Best Buy before she worked here. And even during the Christmas season, and one of my coworkers also does kind of part-time work up at Best Buy as well. And during the Christmas season, there were for Best Buy, there were 300 applicants, and there were 100 jobs needed. So, we're so economically ignorant that and these are for maybe a little bit over the minimum wage. And we are so economically ignorant that we don't understand that by raising the minimum wage, that is really going to basically cut the jobless rate even more for unskilled workers. And it's like we're just so ignorant on how to solve certain problems, and we want to make everybody happy and everybody equal. And the world just isn't that way. The world is it's not an equal world, however you cut it. And then the more you try to make it so, the more suffering for everybody else is. It seems like it's going to be the end result. Because the ignorant have lots of children, and they get their money from those who are responsible. It's I mean, I was where I was working. There was like next door there was a toy giveaway, and you could just see the ignorance in these poor people. I mean, these were like, it was completely awful to see how many people who breed, who basically and have more than one child, are out there getting free stuff. Getting bikes and toys and everything else, and it was like, geez, I mean, and they're probably, many of them are on some form of public assistance, and it's kind of like the Titanic sinking, and we only have a few lifeboats, and people are making more dependence on these lifeboats. So some of us are going to have to tip over, basically.
I see Goofy Bone making his way into the show. Spreaker Eugenics in action.
Yeah, Spreaker Eugenics. And years ago, David Duke, he was the one who wanted Norplant for welfare mothers, saying that if you had one child on welfare, he would actually pay these welfare mothers, and it didn't matter what race, but of course they called it racist, that you could get on Norplant, and it would be for 7 years. It would sterilize you for about 7 years. And in my opinion, I don't even think that should be. I think that they shouldn't even get extra money for it. I think that should be preconditioned. Some form of temporary sterilization if you are a person on public assistance. I don't think that's really a bad thing to be on some form of temporary sterilization to have kids. That's just my opinion.
What about those who believe that having children inspires people to actually straighten themselves out and actually become more productive?
Look, I just can't handle this.
I don't know really if that's been the case.
No support for
A lot
it.
of people claim that.
I would like to debate Midnight on his idea that welfare mothers, as he calls them, should be sterilized for 7 years. First of all, the Norplant only works for 5. David Duke was uninformed. And even Gardasil could not be enforced in Texas. Remember that? I guess you don't. Ted Cruz tried to force that through. But anyway, I've had enough. I mean, really.
Oh my God, who the hell cares?
So I will do this.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
Do a debate on the state of welfare mothers and what should be done about them. And I want you to compare corporate welfare to social welfare and see what the costs are. It's for a person that makes $40,000 a year. I believe it's $36 for all those food entitlement programs, like food stamps. There's a program for elders, the people that work at those programs. $36 a year versus quite a bit more for corporate welfare. take a look at this, really look at who you're talking about. Like, this is